Welcome into another edition of the Cory Sanning Show. It's the best, absolute, my most favorite time of year. It's time that we're going to be getting consistent. It's time that we're going to be going to hit the ground running because it's football season in America, and I could not be more excited. You know, the only person that is not excited about this is my fiance, who has prepared some lovely smelling salmon in the other room that I'm totally looking forward to getting to after this. But got to get a show to get to. And she's not looking forward to me hogging the TV up every Saturday and Sunday like I did on Saturday. Well, I was at the golf course, which a bunch of my social media followers have let me know how ugly my golf swing is. But you all can, pardon my language, y'all can fuck off because I haven't played in 5 years and I still shot only 13 over par my first time, even though it was only a 9-hole course. But that's neither here nor there. Welcome into the Cory Sanning Show, brought to you by one of my favorite sponsors, Clean Eats Knoxville. As you all know, I am a fitness enthusiast. I've struggled a little bit with my consistency here lately, but meal planning and meal prep was something that I always struggled with, regardless if I was lifting weights 5 or 6 days a week, or even 7 when I overdid it there for a while. But Clean Eats makes it easy to meal prep. Going to show you, it makes it less, well, I guess it makes it easy because I don't have to do the cooking. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you for just a quick second because I want to show you how easy it is to order online. Go right here to the website, register an account. It finds you your cafe nearest to you. You can get merchandise and whatnot as well. As you see, Brookview Center Way, number 104 in Bearden is my favorite. And this week's menu was something to behold. Well, this is actually next week's menu, but we've got some General Tso's chicken, Mexican lasagna, my favorite, barbecue cheeseburger bowl, another one of my favorites. And of course, you got the jerk chicken mac and cheese, meatball tortellini, maple waffle fry loaded breakfast. I think that's a new one that I cannot wait to try. And then obviously you got your premium add-ons, brisket mac and cheese 2.0. My brother actually just made the best brisket in the world for Labor Day. Shout out Cody. He called himself Pitmaster Sibo. Buffalo chicken pizza for those of you pizza lovers. Then you go down here and you got some peanut butter Buckeyes. Cannot go wrong with those. Energy bites, protein PB&Js, protein bars, clean witches, which are dessert ice cream sandwiches that have some protein in them, and then obviously empanadas, and you can get your protein powders as well. So give Clean Eats a shot. Stop in one of the 3 locations we have here in the Knoxville area. Tell them Cory sent you. Not going to say it's going to give you a discount, but I'm not going to say it's not because it's not. But tell them that I sent you, and gets me a little bit more leeway with them. But for those of you that are tuning in live, I appreciate you for tuning in. We have a lot of big announcements. One big announcement that we're going to get to later in the show before we sign off, but it is NFL season. This is our official NFL preseason prediction show simply because the season starts tomorrow night. So I have to get off here and get on DraftKings. As you all can tell from my background and from the shirt that I'm wearing, who I support, I rock with the Ravens through and through, and I will to the day I die, and I will with Lamar Jackson because he is my boy. For those of you who don't know, Lamar Jackson and I have interacted on social media quite a bit over the years, and he just most recently shared my engagement photo. And, who knows? Maybe one day we'll have him on the show. Dropping a little teaser, but you'll find out sooner than later. But we're going to do our breakdown of each division, predict who's going to win those divisions. We're going to go over who I think is going to win the MVP and Defensive Player of the Year. And then we're going to get into playoff seeding, Super Bowl prediction. Everything that I have said here today that I'm going to say is going to be on record. So for those of you that want to call me out on X, Instagram, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, Snapchat, oh, Lord have mercy, please don't on Snapchat. You're gonna have some ammo in the. There's some bullets in the chamber for when we have our little debates later on in the season. But we're gonna start off with the AFC. AFC, as you all know, last year the Chiefs represented the AFC once again in the Super Bowl. The Chiefs have been to 5 Super Bowls in the Patrick Mahomes era, which is an insane amount given that he's only going into his 9th year, I believe. He's definitely on a GOAT trajectory. I think maybe if he had won one more of them, he probably might already be solidified as that, despite Tom Brady having 3 Super Bowl rings, 3 more would have. Let me rephrase that. Despite Tom Brady having had 3 more Super Bowl wins in his career, Mahomes would have had 4 by the time he was 28, 29. So that trajectory is hard to beat. But we're going to start off in the AFC East, or as I call it, the AFC least, because it's easily by far the weakest division in all of football, and it's honestly set up a cakewalk a bit for the Bills to potentially get the 1 seed for the first time in the Josh Allen era. But going into our predictions, these are mine. I think the Bills are going to run away with this division. I think you're kidding yourself if you say otherwise. Josh Allen, reigning MVP. Yeah, I'm still not over that. And Sean McDermott is a hell of a coach. You got some budding weapons. James Cook is no scrub. We'll see what happens with Keon Coleman if he can take a next step. Then you have a solid defense led by Matt Milano, who, despite their lack of talent, performed well at the end of the season and got the Bills once again to the AFC Championship game. Well, 3 turnovers, unforced turnovers by the Ravens got them to the championship game where they once again lost to Kansas City. But number 2, I got the Dolphins. I think their talent will overcome what the Jets and the Patriots have, despite the Patriots having Mike Vrabel as their coach. I think the Patriots are going to come in last in the division. I think the Jets are more talented, despite them losing Aaron Rodgers. He really wasn't the Aaron Rodgers of old. And I think overall, we get Bills running away with this. Like I said, every team in the NFL should be wishing that they had a division as weak as this one, because it's a cakewalk. It's a cakewalk for the Bills. And the Bills roster, I'll be completely honest, on paper isn't the best. You signed Joey Bosa, who can't stay healthy to save his life. That's your big offseason signing. That's what they were going to trade for Myles Garrett and get a game breaker on defense. Von Miller's gone. He really wasn't much of a difference maker last year. Matt Milano, he's on the upside of age. We've got a solid secondary, but when you're the best offseason signing in the secondary is Tre'Davious White, he didn't do much for the Ravens last year, and he's not going to do much for the Bills again in his second go-round with Buffalo. So AFC East, I think it's pretty cut and dry. I don't think you can go wrong with that. Those of you who would say the Jets or the Dolphins would win this division, or even the Patriots, I think I need to check your sanity and to see where you're getting the weed that you're smoking, because you'll need to let me know, because that's some good shit. On to the next one. This is another doozy of a division. It's not really one that we're going to be talking about a lot, because I think it's pretty safe and sound to see who's going to win this one. The only thing I'm really intrigued to see with the AFC South this year is how good Cam Ward looks, because I think the Titans did get themselves a gem, especially someone that's a leader of men. He's already called out that offense in training camp. What rookie you tell me had the goal to do that? And he's not doing it in a way like Shedeur Sanders that makes you think he's just a spoiled, rotten brat that grew up with a silver gold spoon in his mouth. Into my AFC South predictions, I think it's pretty clear. Texans at 1. Come on. CJ Stroud, even missing some of their receivers for the year, the Texans are clearly far and away the best team in that division. I'm going with the Jaguars finishing in second. I think Travis Hunter will make a bit of a difference. I think there's still an MPB out for Trevor Lawrence and what happened to the Trevor Lawrence of a couple of years ago, but the talent is still there. Not a bad coaching staff, not a horrible coaching staff, I should say. But overall, I think the Titans will come in third, because I think the Colts are overall just a dumpster fire. Anthony Richardson's not that guy. I think the Titans have much better leadership under center. And I think they have albeit, the Colts do have good weapons. I think the talent that surrounds Cam Ward will fit his skill set better than whatever surrounds Anthony Richardson, because as of now, Daniel Jones is the starter. And we all know what Daniel Jones does as a starter. Not much. There's a reason he abandoned the nickname Danny Dimes, because Danny don't throw no damn dimes. I'll tell you that right now for sure. But AFC South, that's pretty cut and dry. Texans. CJ Stroud is my backup quarterback in fantasy, so that might have something to do with it. But overall, I think logic just comes through here, and I think the Texans run away with this division. I think the Jaguars, may give them a little scare here and there simply because of the health of Houston's wide receivers, and Joe Mixon, of course. But I just have a hard time seeing DeMeco Ryans let his team slip that much. And CJ Stroud is he's a budding superstar quarterback. Even in a down year last year, he still got them to the divisional round, and they were hanging tough there with the juggernaut of the AFC, which is Kansas City, in Kansas City, after Travis Kelce had been able to rest for 2-3 weeks and had his best game arguably of the season. But that's the AFC South. Like I said, not really much to debate there. It's one of those divisions where you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. You don't think a Super Bowl winner is going to come out of there. And just like I don't think a Super Bowl winner is coming out of the AFC East, and that's that. On to the next one. We're going to the AFC West. really could be an interesting division this year, given how much Denver's improved, given how much the Chargers have improved under Jim Harbaugh, given that the Raiders brought in Pete Carroll and, they have Geno. Who knows what they could do? And they have Brock Bowers, arguably the best tight end in all of football. But same old song and dance. The Chiefs are going to win the AFC West. The Broncos are going to finish close second because I am very much a believer in Denver. Sean Payton, Bo Nix, Cortland Sutton. I mean, they've got weapons all over the place. They've got a great, great, great defense led by arguably the best defensive back in all of football. And I think they're going to make it interesting, but I think overall, in Travis Kelce and Pat Mahomes and Andy Reid's last go-around together, because I think this is the year Travis Kelce hangs it up, I think they come away, they do what they have always done, and that's win the AFC West, get themselves at least one home playoff game, and we'll see what happens. But that's one thing that Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce have proven to do over the years is regardless if they look like world beaters in the regular season or not, they make the plays when it matters most to win close games. And that's what's gotten them to the Super Bowl the past 2 years. I could argue day in and day out that you replay that 2023 AFC Championship game, taking my bias out of it between the Ravens and that version of the Chiefs. Ravens win 8 out of 10 times, and the only reason the Chiefs win twice is because they have Patrick Mahomes, Spags, and Andy Reid. Last year, Bills, man, I don't think the Bills deserve to be in that championship game, but they played like it. And it took the Chiefs making the plays when it mattered most to get back to the Super Bowl. Now, obviously, they didn't win it this past year because Philly was far and away the best team in the NFL all season, and it showed in the playoffs. But it's hard for me to sit here and say that in this last go-around with this regime that the Chiefs won't get it done. They have gotten it done consistently throughout the years, and there's no reason for me to believe that they won't this year. As painful as it is as a Ravens fan for me to say, they just get it done. And I see some of you in the chat that say, Houston takes the South. Joey Bosa is not a QB nightmare. I'm sorry. Joey Bosa's played a combined 8 games, I believe, in the past 2 years. He can't stay healthy to save his life, and he's on the wrong side of 30. So, and his numbers wouldn't back up that he's an elite pass rusher regardless anyway. I think the right Bosa brother is in San Francisco. And I will agree, the Bills are not elite. I think that they're one of the more overrated franchises in sports. I think that Josh Allen never was and never will be the best player in the NFL. And I think that he just got the MVP last year because the NFL was tired about him not winning it when they propped him up preseason every single year like he was finally Josh's year to win MVP. Numbers didn't back it up. The tape didn't back it up. And with 3.5 minutes to go, Josh Allen had the ball, a chance to take the lead and take the Bills to the Super Bowl, and couldn't even get him past the 50-yard line. But we didn't talk about that because, well, we'll get into that another day. But on to the next one, and this is the one you all been waiting on with me. AFC North. For years, probably was the most competitive division in all of football. It's kind of slid off in the recent years, given the fact that the Bengals can't make the playoffs because they have a horrible defense and a horrible coaching staff and one of the most nauseating fan bases in all of football. Another topic for another day. Same with the Browns. Steelers, just middle of the pack. It's amazing to me that Mike Tomlin had that team at 10-3 at one point last year because they were more so who they were in the latter half of the season when they got stomped by the Ravens twice. I believe they lost 4 or 5 straight games. It might have even been more than that. And now that they don't have Russ, they have Aaron Rodgers, which I believe even at this point in his career is an upgrade. I just don't see it. You get a little bit of an upgraded receiver, but you trade away George Pickens and you trade away your all-pro safety for an aging cornerback. Now who's going to play the safety and who's to say that no one's going to take the top off the defense consistently? Chuck Clark was cut. He's old. Deshaun Elliott, he's old. He was never a bona fide Pro Bowl safety. So I'm not sure. Again, never bet against Mike T, but I think this is the year. You knew what my prediction is going to be. The Ravens are going to run away with the division because they're that much better on paper and behind the scenes than any of these other teams are. Cincinnati, you got Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. That didn't get him to the playoffs last year. You re-signed Trey Hendrickson. Trey Hendrickson's 17.5 sacks had no effect on their defensive effectiveness last year. Shamar Stewart is a project that might not even pan out because he didn't hardly record any sacks in college. The combine does not determine whether you're going to be a first-round pick or not, in my opinion, but it did with Shamar Stewart, and they finally paid his ass, lo and behold. And Cincinnati fans are all clamoring on social media, oh my God, we finally did it. We finally paid people. You paid 4 guys that take up more than 70% of your salary cap. And Trey Hendrickson's on a 1-year deal. He's leaving after next year. T. Higgins' contract, if you read in between the lines in the language that's written, is not guaranteed whatsoever after this year. And then you go to the Ravens. Yeah, have they not gotten it done in the postseason? No. I'll be the first to tell you. But from 1 through 53, this is the most stacked roster Lamar Jackson's ever had in his career. The defense should be top 3 or 4. That secondary is elite beyond measure. And they just re-signed Kyle Hamilton. You draft Malachi Starks to go with him in the first round, and he's looked all the part. You have all-pro corner in Marlon Humphrey. You have a budding all-pro corner in Nate Wiggins to go with all-pro corner Jair Alexander. I don't care if he hasn't practiced and he had his knee drained, if he hasn't practiced in a week. He's not there to be the number 1 corner. And when he does show up, check the numbers. He produces like an all-pro. And then you have Cheeto Awuzie as the 4th guy, and his coverage percentage in the past few years has been off the chains. Not saying he's an elite corner by any means. And then you go to the offensive side of the ball. You have 2 top 10 players in Lamar and Derrick Henry. Lamar was the number 1 quarterback in the top 100, ahead of Josh Allen, ahead of Joe Burrow, ahead of Patrick Mahomes, because for the past 2 years, nobody has played quarterback consistently better than Lamar has. And he should have been a 3-time MVP, but, the voters said, here you go, Josh. Will you finally get your one? And they literally admitted that out of their lips and in their writing. You go with a great receiving, a really good receiving room with Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman. D-Hop is the number 3 guy. Then you have Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, best tight end duo in all of football. Charlie Kolar is a great blocking tight end to go with the best running back room in all of football with Derrick Henry, Justice Hill, Keaton Mitchell, Rasheen Ali, and I go on. And then a great offensive line led by Tyler Linderbaum, Ronnie Stanley, Andrew Voorhees, and Roger Rosengarten coming into their own. And then Daniel Falele, he's big. He had a good surge at the end of the season. We'll see what happens. But from top to bottom, outside of the Eagles, there's not a roster in football better. And if you're telling yourself there is, that's just delusion on your part. At this point, the AFC North is the Ravens to lose. And if they lose it, it's going to be because of either catastrophic injury, knock on wood, or catastrophic injury, because none of these teams compare. Sorry, you can say it's bias all you want, but if you really look at these rosters from top to bottom, you look at the coaching staffs from top to bottom, you look at everything from top to bottom, nobody in the AFC North compares to the Ravens, and it's going to show come opening night on this Sunday in Buffalo, where their season ended just 6-7 months ago. And I am ready for those fireworks. But those of you in the chat, I know I have a lot of NFC fans in the chat, so we're going to get to you all. And the reason the Ravens didn't win in the playoffs is because they turned the ball over 3 times. That's why they didn't win. And each one of those were unforced. But that doesn't change the fact that the roster's the best on paper aside from the Eagles. And the only real denominator that's shifts the tide in the Ravens' favor is that Lamar is a much better quarterback than Jalen Hurts ever dreamed of being, despite Jalen Hurts having Howie Roseman, the best organization perhaps in football, combined with the best roster in the league with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Give Lamar A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and see what he does. But we're getting into the NFC. We're going to start with, let me see if we get down here with, I need to delete some of these banners as I go about and using them. We're going to start with the NFC East. The NFC East with the defending champion Eagles, the Commanders, the Giants, and the Cowboys. I think it's pretty easy to say I have the Eagles win the division yet again. They lost a few people on the defensive side of the football, but the rosters largely remained intact from last championship season. Commanders are going to give them a run for their money. They're going to come in second. I don't think they're going to win the division this year. Pardon me. And then you have the Cowboys and Giants rounding off at 3 and 4, and they're insignificant. This is going to be really interesting this year because who knows? What if the Super Bowl hangover is real, regardless if you were a participant or if you were the winner? The Super Bowl hangover has been real for the past 15, 20 years. And this is a young team. This is a hungry Eagles team. This is a team that's got great veteran leadership from Jalen Hurts on down to Saquon, to A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, to the defensive side of the ball as well. Do I see that happening? No, I really don't. Maybe they have a couple of hiccups here and there. Maybe they won't win. Maybe they'll drop a few games here and there that they should have won. But overall, I don't think you can look at the NFC East and say that any of those teams are better than Philly. Maybe Jaden Daniels has an outstanding season, outplays Jalen Hurts by a country mile, which I think he still will outplay Jalen Hurts because Philly doesn't really need to throw the ball a whole ton, even though they have the weapons that are beyond capable of that. But would I be surprised if I was wrong on this because of like a second-year surge by Jaden Daniels? Who knows? Maybe Jaden Daniels has a second-year Lamar surge and Patrick Mahomes surge and wins MVP. Who knows? It's not my pick to win the MVP, but he's got the weapons around him. He's got a good coaching staff, and he showed all the intangibles last year when he took that team to the NFC Championship game when they had no business beating Detroit. In Detroit, nonetheless. But that's neither here nor there. We're going on to the next division, which I know is going to be the chat's favorite because the chat has a lot of NFC South fans. Yeah, I know this is the one you all were waiting for. To the outside looking in, this is a crapshoot of a division because there's no clear and away best team. But in my opinion, there is. And it's not going to be who you think it's going to be because I've got the Falcons winning the NFC South. I think their youthful core takes another step this year. I think Michael Penix is the full-time starter, is going to show significant progress. And if it wasn't for terrible, terrible coaching decision not to call timeout in the final minutes last year, the Falcons would have been in the playoffs over the Buccaneers. What makes me think that an aging receiver, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are great, and Baker Mayfield's proved a lot of people wrong. But what makes me think an injury-prone, aging receiving core is going to be able to take this team to the division title? I just don't see it. The Saints have too many question marks at the quarterback position. They just do. Spencer Rattler, really? That's not getting nobody to the playoffs, even if he's replaced midseason. And then, obviously, the Panthers with Bryce Young. I mean, they are who they are. Bryce Young is too small for the NFL. It's not a bad kid, not a bad player. He gave my Tennessee Vols plenty of fits in college, but this isn't college. And, you have Chuba Hubbard coming out of the backfield, but it's going to be another painful season for fans in Charlotte. And it's going to be a very fun season for fans in Atlanta because they're going to finally see that maybe they do have their franchise quarterback beyond Matt Ryan. If you really look back on it, Matt Ryan's been in the broadcast booth now for quite a few years. And the Falcons never have recovered from that epic Super Bowl meltdown, that Super Bowl that they should have won. And I think this is the year where they break through and do make the playoffs. I really do. I think Michael Penix is going to be better than Baker Mayfield. And people that say, history wouldn't suggest that. We'll see. They've got weapons over there in Atlanta. I think the jury's still out on Kyle Pitts, but I think he makes some strides this year back to the guy that we thought he could be. And then you obviously have a budding defense led by probably one of the two best safeties in football, on Jesse Bates. And they fill out the rest from there. But I think this is the Falcons' year. I think the Falcons are going to take that division, and I think they'll host a home playoff game. Those of you that think I'm crazy, I think you're crazy just because logically I think that's what's going to happen. And yeah, see, I made him happy. I made someone in the chat happy. That's probably the biggest Lamar hater in the world. I think he just loves to troll me at this point. But yeah, I think the Falcons win that division, and I think they'll be hosting a home playoff game in Atlanta again. Good for those fans. They've been waiting on it for a long time. We're going to get into the NFC West next. This was one of the best divisions in football for a long period of time, much of my childhood. But it's kind of teetered off here in recent years. I think this year's the resurgence of the Rams. I think the Rams are going to win the division. I think they'll host a playoff game in LA. I think the 49ers will come in second. Something is just off about that team lately. I don't know why, because they have all the talent in the world. They've got the best linebacker in football. They've got a solid quarterback. They've got solid offense. They've got Nick Bosa on defense. I mean, and they have a great coaching staff. something's just off. And I don't know if this is going to be the year where it's fixed. Maybe they do sneak in and surprise me. Maybe they do earn a wild card spot. Maybe we'll see. But the Rams with Puka Nacua, Matthew Stafford, I think that it's their year. Sean McVay is still a great coach. I think they made some improvements on defense. And I still have belief in Matt Stafford. I really do. More than any other quarterback in that division. The Cardinals, I think they'll come in last. The Seahawks with Mike McDonald, I mean, they're budding. Who knows? Maybe they'll be a little bit better with Sam Darnold. But overall, it's an underwhelming division just based on the potential that these teams have. And I'm really, especially when it comes to the 49ers, who have 3 chances in the past 10, 12 years to win a Super Bowl and haven't been able to break through and win one, even though they could have won at least 2 of them. That first one against the Ravens should have been a blowout, but, Roger Goodell couldn't let us have that in a landslide. So NFC West, going with the Rams. I think, honestly, that's a pretty logical pick at this point because, like I said, the 49ers haven't shown in recent memory that they are the team that we thought they were for so many years. And like I said, it's highly unfortunate given the fact that they were knocking on the doorstep for so long. I mean, I can't even think of it. And it's a little sneak preview that was not meant to show in there. But, you all got at least one of the pieces of news that's going to happen. We're going to get to the last division, though, NFC North. NFC North is a highly competitive division, one of the best divisions in all of football, certainly was last year, and one that just got a lot more interesting when the Green Bay Packers traded for Micah Parsons. We'll see if he can, improve his defense against the run and his ability to show up in a big game, but a game wrecker talent-wise nonetheless. But I think it's going to be much of the same as it was last year. The Lions, I think, are going to win the division. I think it'll be a close second with the Packers just because I have much more faith in Jordan Love than Jared Goff. Some people look at me like I'm crazy, but, I mean, did you see the NFC divisional game last year? This year, they're going to be healthy on defense. They're going to be healthy on offense. They've got Amon-Ra St. Brown. They got Jahmyr Gibbs. They got a great offense and a great coach. Tough, hard-nosed coach. I think those go unappreciated nowadays. The old school guys, the Tomlins, the Harbaughs of the world, Mike Vrabels of the world, the Dan Campbells of the world. I'd love to play for Dan Campbell. But rounding out that division, I think the Bears are going to usurp the Vikings. I don't have a lot of faith in J.J. McCarthy. Maybe he'll prove me wrong, but I think Caleb Williams is better. They've got some weapons over there, and they're improving on defense. And I think this is the year they take a step. It's not going to be a huge step, but it's going to be a step nonetheless. And I think the Lions overall get themselves back atop that division. I don't think it's going to be very close, but overall, we'll see what happens. This is why I wanted to get these predictions on record so I can go back and either make fun of myself or or go say, ha, I was fucking right. Usually it's the latter, but we'll see. We'll see. All right, next, getting into who's going to be the MVP, the most valuable player. We all know my thoughts on the MVP race last year. We all know my thoughts on the MVP race the year before. And call me biased all you want, but I don't think history would suggest anything else other than Lamar getting his trophy back that should have been his last year. There you have it. Lamar last year was historically great. 4th highest passer rating of all time. Best touchdown to interception ratio at 41-4 of all time. 4,200 passing yards almost. Completed 67% of his passes. Rushed for 900 yards and another 4 touchdowns. 119.6 passer rating. 4th greatest ever. And somehow lost to a guy that threw for less than 4,000 yards and 28 touchdowns. Somehow was voted first team All-Pro, which says you're the best. When you're voted first team All-Pro, that means you were the best at your position that year. And these writers go in and vote, they say Lamar was the best, but then they go in and split hairs and redefine the way that the award is voted on to give it to Josh Allen. Tony Romo goes on the air. You can still pull up the clip on YouTube and says, yeah, but you feel bad for Josh because he doesn't have one. No, that's not how professional sports works. This is not charity. This is not Little League football and soccer where you don't play to win. where there's no score and you just play to have fun. That's not how the NFL works. That was the first time that had happened since 1987 when John Elway, the second team All-Pro quarterback, somehow won it over Joe Montana, who was the first team All-Pro quarterback. I mean, how embarrassing does that have to be for your MVP trophy to be basically a pity award? Because you've come into the league, or come into every season for the past, since that 13-second game, and it's supposed to have been Josh Allen's year. This is the year he wins MVP. This is the year he leads Buffalo to the 1 seed. This is the year the Buffalo Bills are going to the Super Bowl for the first time since the early 90s when they lost 4 in a row. Who the hell goes to 4 straight Super Bowls in a row and you can't win one? Really? I mean, and hey, there are some great fans up in Buffalo. There are some fans that deserve a championship. But the vast majority of them, like Cincinnati fans in recent memory, have become nauseating as can be. And they had the nerve to come on here when I was spewing facts earlier this summer and say that the Ravens were the dumbest fan base in the league. Now, listen, there are some bad Ravens fans out there. There's bad fans in every fan base. But once I brought up my numbers and backed it up with facts and pointed out so many things that have gone, that has worked in the Bills' favor in the past few years, they had nothing to say. And they're going to have nothing to say this year when it goes around, when the Bills do not go to the Super Bowl again. And I have no earthly sympathy for that fan base whatsoever anymore. Used to for a very long time. I really did. Now, gets to the point where damned if you do, damned if you don't. But Lamar's going to exact revenge this year, and he's going to have his 3rd MVP by the time he turns 29, which is crazy because that means I'll be 29 in December. He'll be 29 in January. But we're going to move on to Defensive Player of the Year. And I am sticking by this, and I'm going to shock a lot of people with this pick, but I think I'm right on the money, and I think I have every right to be. It's not going to be a defensive end. It's not going to be that. It's going to be the best defensive back in all of football who's over there in Denver, number 2, Pat Surtain. I am 100% confident in this. I placed money on this. Who knows? Maybe voter fatigue will come in with TJ Watt, Myles Garrett, guys like Max Crosby. Voter fatigue came in with the MVP award. Why would it not go with Defensive Player of the Year? Pat Surtain is a one-man wrecking crew in the defensive backfield. He was the best corner in all of football last year. The only defensive backs you can really look to that are better than him, and I'm going, to safeties across the board, perhaps Kyle Hamilton, perhaps Jesse Bates. Even then, Pat Surtain can guard people from one side of the field to the next. And I think he's going to take on the Defensive Player of the Year award. I really, really do. Remember this. When Pat Surtain gets his first Defensive Player of the Year award, and it might be his only one, come back here and say, Cory told you so, because I firmly believe that's what's going to happen. And like I said, if I'm wrong, will I be surprised? No. But if I'm right, you're going to be surprised. I don't think so. Which now gets us into the playoff seeding and the playoff standing. We're going to start in the AFC. We're going to start with a painful picture that still pains me to bring up. But these are my AFC playoff standings. I think the Ravens are going to take the 1 seed. I don't think they're going to get off to an 0-2 start like they did last year. I have the Bills taking the 2 seed with that cakewalk of a schedule. Chiefs doing the Chiefs things. Texans win their division, get the home playoff game. And then I have a rounding out with the Broncos, Chargers, and Dolphins. And guess what? There's no Cincinnati in my playoff standings because Cincinnati is not making the playoffs for a 3rd consecutive year. Their defense did not get better. Signing Trey Hendrickson did not improve that defense's chances of stopping the run. And if you have to double the same guy, because I don't think Shamar Stewart is that guy, how effective is Trey Hendrickson really going to be in terms of impacting games? So, yeah. Would I be surprised if off of the greatness of Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins alone, they managed to squeak in maybe this year if they get off to a better start? No, but it's not going to be any higher than the 6th seed. And that'd be based off the Dolphins imploding. But I'm sorry. Read between the lines. 4 players is not going to carry you to the postseason. It didn't last year, and it's not going to this year because Zach Taylor is not a good coach. You didn't upgrade the defensive coordinator. You don't have a great offensive coordinator. You don't really need a great offensive coordinator when you just throw 5-yard out routes to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and let them take it to the house. Just because you had the most accurate quarterback in all of football who put up MVP-like numbers last year, you still didn't make the playoffs. Remember those 2 games against the Ravens? Do you remember when you had double-digit leads? And remember Joe Burrow turned the ball over in both games in critical points that allowed the Ravens to come back when at that point they had a worse defense than Cincinnati because, they were starting people like Marcus Williams and Eddie Jackson in the secondary. Sorry. AFC Championship game is going through Baltimore. I think the Bills get knocked out by the Chiefs in the divisional round. I think the Chiefs go back to Baltimore, and I think Lamar gets his payback for 2023. And I think that is the end of this version of the Chiefs. It's not going to be the end of the Chiefs by any means. But it's going to send Travis Kelce into retirement. He can go marry Taylor Swift and do all the post-retirement things he wants with his brother. They have a great podcast going. He's got a great personality that'd be funny. He'd be an X-Pac McAfee on TV. And I'd be all for it. I'd be all for them sharing the same set. But the Ravens are going to put it all together this year, and they're going to get to that stage that we've been longing for since Lamar got drafted. And I am fully confident in that. Which brings us to the NFC. Eagles 1, Lions 2, Rams 3, Falcons 4. I think my divisional predictions spoke for themselves when it came to that. I think, don't get mad at me for this, I think we get an Eagles-Lions NFC Championship game. I think the Lions right the wrong from last year in terms of losing their first divisional game at home to the Commanders. And I think Dan Campbell gets that team to the championship game. Unfortunately, they're going to run into the defending champions who are still hellaciously good on both sides of the ball. And they're going to lose. And the Eagles are going back to the Super Bowl for the second year in a row. Unfortunately, no repeat in sight. Putting 10 toes down. Ravens defeat the Lions in Super Bowl 60. And Lamar checks the final box on his Hall of Fame trajectory. He's already a first ballot Hall of Famer if he retired today. And that's going to solidify him as the greatest dual threat quarterback that ever lived, as if it wasn't already the case. And then everything he does from that point on is just going to be a cherry on top. And yeah, you can look at me all you want and say, this is nothing but biased fandom at its finest. A lot of people who know the game of football agree with me. I think I know the game of football pretty well. I covered it as a reporter for more than 6 years at a high level. I got hired by Sports Illustrated in my senior year of college. Am I the greatest thing that ever touched sports media? Hell no. But I ain't the worst. And I damn sure know what I'm talking about. And I damn sure think this is the year that the Ravens finally put it together. Barriers are made to be broken. They're made to be busted through. Overcame the Steelers hurdle. Beat them in the playoffs. Got to a championship game a couple of years ago. Unfortunately, had 2 turnovers that were unforced in the first half last year, but led them back to the point where if Mark Andrews doesn't fumble that ball, they probably take the lead when they were driving. And then they don't even need to go for a 2-point conversion because the Ravens outgained Buffalo 413 yards to 275 in that game. But yet I still hear constantly from Buffalo fans that they dominated. They did nothing special. They were just there to pick the ball up when it bounced their way. And it's not going to happen this year. And finally, somebody besides Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid is going to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. And they're going to win it. No disrespect to the Eagles and Jalen Hurts. But do I think they're an all-time great team just yet? No. Maybe they prove me wrong. Maybe they do beat the Ravens. But I don't think it's going to happen. Paper, healthy, on paper, they're matched up very evenly. But Lamar Jackson's a much better quarterback than Jalen Hurts. And if you argue with that again, you can argue that with the brick wall. But that's where my predictions stand. We're going to be getting into this more on Friday after tomorrow night's season opener with the Eagles and Cowboys, which I've already put money on the Eagles. And we're going to see what happens. I am so excited. I have not been this excited for a football season since last football season. I think a lot of you fans can relate. But we're getting into the next topic, which is actually a pretty funny topic, if you say the least. A lot of you saw the news earlier today. Mr. Glass himself, Kawhi Leonard, is accused of pocketing $28 million in endorsement fraud, basically, from Clippers owner Steve Ballmer. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, show you what Pablo Torre was talking about on his show earlier today. We're going to listen, and then we'll react on the other side.
What we know is that NBA executives were suspicious of how Steve Ballmer's Clippers landed the most valuable free agent on the market, Kawhi Leonard. That the NBA did not find that Ballmer got Kawhi by sweetening their offer. Mm-hmm. But also that in March 2025, this celebrity-endorsed, multi-billion-dollar, allegedly fraudulent tree brokerage named Aspiration, which promises to clear your conscience and your emissions, they filed for bankruptcy. And this is where the clue is. What David's looking at with his glasses on is a bankruptcy filing, and there's a list of creditors. The entities to which Aspiration and all of their alleged fraudulence still owes the most money. And what I noticed is what David is noticing right now, which is that on that list of creditors, up near the top, above the Boston Red Sox, is an LLC, a tiny little company that Aspiration owes $7 million. And that LLC's name, David, is what?
KL2 Aspire LLC.
And what does it list there under manager or member name?
Kawhi Leonard.
Whose NBA jersey number, just to connect all of the dots here, happens to be what?
Number 2.
So then the question is, the Aspire part of KL2 Aspire LLC, right? Because, okay, he's getting all this money, millions of dollars. What I started doing was scour the internet for any mentions of Aspiration. Any appearances, tweets, quotes, Instagram posts, anything by Kawhi Leonard endorsing Aspiration. And this was hard to find, which also might seem weird, right? Because every other celebrity Aspiration gave money to was well known. There was Drake offering a statement to Rolling Stone. There was Doc Rivers, Kawhi's own head coach. Robert Downey Jr. was cutting his commercial. That was the whole point of paying the A-list Avengers. But the grand total number of times that I found Kawhi Leonard ever publicly referencing Aspiration, 0 times.
Right.
Kawhi Leonard mentioned Aspiration. And so what I started doing was reaching out to dozens of former Aspiration employees. A grand total of 7 of them ultimately agreed to interviews, which is also how I have exclusively obtained this signed and executed document.
In consideration of the rights and benefits granted to company hereunder, the company will pay KL2, which is Kawhi, $28 million in cash during the term of this agreement. Company will pay KL2 $7 million each year of the term.
That is Kawhi Leonard's autograph. I convinced one very important person who worked in the finance department of Aspiration to go on tape.
And I didn't so much as discover it as I was told about it.
What was your reaction? What were you told?
My reaction was, what the fuck? And I was told, like, oh, these are the major contracts and the major players you really need to be aware of. And we went through a litany of, really, really top tier name contracts. And then, oh, by the way, we also have a marketing deal with Kawhi Leonard, a $28 million organic marketing sponsorship deal with Kawhi. And that if I had any questions about it, essentially don't, because it was to circumvent the salary cap, LOL. There was lots of LOL when things were shared.
Did you ever see proof of Kawhi Leonard marketing or endorsing Aspiration in any way?
Never, not once.
Okay, now that's some shit. Kawhi Leonard, Mr. Glass Knees himself, even on his endorsement contracts, which is a total fraud and a total scheme to pay him more money to circumvent the salary cap, still doesn't show up to work. Not one endorsement, not one commercial, not one tweet, not one Instagram post. And yet this guy gets paid $28 million. I've never seen a guy at the top of a profession like this that never wants to show up to work. I make way less money than Kawhi Leonard does, but I still like showing up to work every day. And it ain't damn sure ain't playing a kid's game as an adult. This is why I can't ever take this guy seriously. I'm sorry, but Kawhi's a fraud. He was never the best player in the NBA. He piggybacked the Spurs to a championship, won Finals MVP out of nowhere, then held the Spurs hostage, forced his way out of town, went to the Raptors, piggybacked led a team when Golden State was hurt to a championship that came out of nowhere. They would not have won that championship had Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson been healthy. And then all of a sudden he thinks he's the shit. He thinks he's the cat's meow, as my cat is outside the door meowing nonstop at me. Probably wants to come in and get some of this damn dog food we have in here. But then holds the Lakers hostage, which, no effect to me. I'm not a Lakers fan. Says he's going to come sign with them. But then it's like, no. Clippers, I will only come to you if you get me Paul George. So they get him Paul George, and he comes to the Clippers and pulls the ultimate rug out from underneath LeBron, Rob Pelinka, and the Lakers. And then guess what? Chokes a 3-1 lead in the bubble to Denver. This is before Denver was Denver. And they blew double-digit leads in games 5, 6, and 7. In which Kawhi scored a grand total of 14 points. And still to this day, the only time the Clippers made the Western Conference Finals was when who was hurt? Kawhi. Man, they made it without him. And now Paul George is gone. That regime is blown up. Never believed in it in the first place. You've got arguably the best coach in the NBA, aside from Eric Spoelstra and Ty Lue. And he's overachieved with the underwhelming roster. But Kawhi brought this all on himself. And I'm sorry. I'm sick of hearing Kawhi is the best player in the game. He never was. He never will be. And I think people are starting to come to see that. Nobody makes so much money in a profession that there's so many people die. Would love to be able to be blessed with the God-given talent and ability to play basketball at that level. So few people in life do. But yet this guy just goes on and takes advantage of it and basically rubs it in all of our faces that he's Kawhi and he makes all this money. And, he doesn't do it. He is not vocal about it. But actions like this rub me the wrong way, and it certainly should rub Clippers fans the wrong way. This guy's a joke, and I'm sorry. At this point, I'm just sitting here like, how in the world do we keep putting up with this? But that's neither here nor there, because we're on to the next topic, which is a funny one. It's a quick hit, really. Mark Cuban still labeling the 2006 finals as rigged. Mark Cuban, after the Dallas Mavericks blew a 2-0 lead to Dwayne Wade, Shaq, and the Heat in 2006, had the FBI perform an investigation on this series, an independent investigation of the league, of anything. Because he was mad that D. Wade averaged 35 points a game on his sorry-ass defense, and the Mavericks blew a 2-0 lead. But as D. Wade put it, and I remember this series to this day, and it's why LeBron James will never be the greatest player ever in my mind. You ain't about to tarnish the work I put in as a young guy. Arguably the greatest finals performance ever, averaging 35 points a game in his third year in the league. Yet I had someone at work, a coworker at work today who I love to death, and I say this affectionately, said that Scottie Pippen was better than D. Wade all time. I literally laughed out loud. Y'all got us. They did. They got payback 5 years later in a series that they should not have won. Just like maybe the Heat shouldn't have won in 06, but it came back around. It's even. Stop that bullshit. I couldn't agree more with this quote. And a lot of you that are watching this show right now probably aren't even old enough to remember how good D-Wade was from 2006 to 2010 when he was healthy. That's the reason LeBron went to South Beach. And yet Mark Cuban is, even though as brilliant of a businessman, as much respect as I have for Mark Cuban as a businessman and hell, as a person, really, he needs to let that shit go. He got his lick back. They made the big three. He made LeBron look like a fool when Dallas beat Miami in that series. I'd never been so confused in my life watching a professional sporting event as I did watching LeBron struggle in that series, aside from game one. Never was that perplexed. And honestly, it wasn't even anything that Dallas did. He just came apart under the pressure, and there was a lot on him that year. And he embraced a role that he wasn't used to playing, and it ultimately came back to bite him in the ass. Against a guy like Jason Terry and JJ Barea, nonetheless. All the credit to Dirk, but those guys, don't get me started. Rick Carlisle's a phenomenal coach, but heaven have mercy. That's another thing for another day. But big announcement that I foreshadowed at the beginning of the show. The Cory Sanning Show debut merch line is right around the corner. I could not be more excited. As you see, we have women's crop tops right here. We have much more than that on the way, though. I'm going to go ahead and share with you a few of the other stills we have of some of the stuff we have coming out. Right here, got some hoodies. Working on some Nike gear. Unfortunately, wasn't available at the time, but we still got that because it's my favorite brand. So it's fitting that I put my face on something with a Nike swoosh. We also got hats for both the men and the ladies. And of course, you can pull up one last image file here. Make sure I did my due diligence. And we got track jackets as well. And there's also, more products that I've shared on social media that I'll be sharing on social media in the coming days. But other than that, the schedule of the show, I'll put this in writing on social media. We are going to be doing live streams every Saturday and Sunday night. Time still to be determined, to react to both college and pro football. I'll be joined on Friday by one of my friends, Christian Perez. As you all might have seen him in shows we've done before. He'll give his predictions, and we're going to be joined by a few of my friends as well. Got one that's repping Dirty Bird Nation in the comments right now. But overall, we'll be doing Saturday and Sunday live streams. We'll also be going on Tuesdays to react to the Monday night game. And then we'll also be doing shows on so we're either going to be doing one on Friday or Thursday, but I'm more sold on Friday simply because we'll be able to get into the weekend's action of both college and pro football. But overall, y'all, I do appreciate y'all for tuning in. I appreciate you getting in the chat and trolling. It's definitely. Oh man, we got some good. Yeah, and you guys got some good pass rush potential there in Atlanta. I'll agree with you. We got some good banner going on in the comments right now. I can't wait to get some people on this football season. But y'all, I do appreciate you tuning in. Tune in. Wait, I keep forgetting what day it was. Tune in on Friday and Saturday and Sunday. We'll be back with more content. Again, watch the Cory Sanning Show at the Cory Sanning Show on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and follow me at Cory Sanning on all the above aforementioned platforms to get more updates on the show. Thank you all for tuning in. See you on the next one.